It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. If this is the first time you've actually come across the channel and you're like, what on earth is this and this is not keyboards, you'll discover that this channel is all sorts of things, but it does invariably end up back relating to keyboards. So this is part of a series of stuff that I'm doing with woodworking to make keyboard related things. Now this video, as the title will tell you, is a look, a review, a little bit of a chat around the Veritas MkII Deluxe Honing Guide. Now this is a set that I bought used. I bought this second hand. I got this nearly half price actually with shipping from a very nice gentleman called Troy, who felt that somebody else could do with it because they weren't using it very much anymore. And I had a really lovely chat and he gave me some hints and some resources around what I could look at to improve my own woodworking skills. So the basic kit here, there's two guide in this. So there is the big one for wide blades, and then there's a narrow one that actually has this moving clamp here. And this is more for things like chisels, because the actual thickness of the chisels and angles of chisels can make it often hard to be clamped in a flat clamp like it has on here. And then as part of the kit is also the angle guide. So this allows you to actually set quite reproducibly a number of different angles, high angles, standard angles, and back bevels. So they've got these indents here with this little bit that you can move up and down to fit within the holes. And then this will actually slide onto the rail and allows you to set the right distance for your blades. Now today, we're not going to work with the chisel or the small blade version, but if we were going to use it, essentially you would fit your blade in like so, and then you could use this and it will automatically center your blade like that. And it would give you basically the right sort of position in the middle of the guide, and you could set the length by having the guide against the stop and so on and so forth. But it works pretty much the same. You can do back bezels and you can do the standard angles, but not the high angles, which this jig will do. So I'm just going to take that out and we'll talk just about the standard because it works pretty much the same. This is just a specialty holder for most part. Now this roller is also, I believe, just their flat roller, whereas this one here on the main jig is their cambered roller, which I'll talk about in a moment as well. So what you want to do is you want to get the blade that you're going to work with, what you want to sharpen, and we're just going to do a quick measure of this in size because this works in inches. So we're going to have a look at that, and it's about 2 and a bit. Just under 2.5, practically speaking. Yeah, just under 2.5 inches. So quite a wide blade here. And so what you want to do is you'll see there's a guide markings along here, 1 inch, 2 inch, and then 2.5 is going to be somewhere over there. So we're going to feed the blade in through. Now this is a really chunky blade compared to modern plain blades. There we go. All right, so now that's 1.5, 2.5. So we're going to line up the edge of that to 2.5 roughly there. Just give it a little bit of light pressure so it doesn't fall out. And I want to set it at 25 degrees because that's the most standard angle for modern planes, but I don't know how that will go with this one because it's not a modern plane. Now that has the rail, so you'll see it's got the teeth that go onto it, and what you want to do is set the blade against this fence here and then set the position up and down so it sits against the bottom of that. So first of all, we're going to just back this off a little bit. That'll allow me to slide it down gently. So we're going to sit that flush. I want to make sure that I'm still sitting at the 2.5 inch mark. Yep. So I'm going to tighten the fence, and then I'm going to move the blade forward so it sits against the fence and the stop. And then now I'm going to just gently tighten and alternate my tightening of the clamp. Boop, boop. And that's it. So we've set the position so that it will, when sitting on the actual sharpening medium, give us that 25-degree angle. Okay, so once I'm happy with that, I'll loosen off the guide. It's tight, slide it back out, and my angle is set. And that should be pretty straight because of the fact that we had that other fence there. Now it does look like it's got a little bit of a lean to it, so I just want to make sure that it is okay. And you know, it is against the fence there, so whoever ground it before, using it before, probably cut it at a little bit more of an angle than you might want to expect if they had a guide like this. They were probably potentially hand sharpening it. So how this roller works is the roller has a couple of positions. In the up position, the roller is a straight roller. But when you rotate the actual pin, it has a couple of other positions that actually allows it to move eccentrically. And so it will give you a micro bezel for easier, quicker sharpening. And with the cambered roller, it will actually rock it slightly. So you'll see that this is actually a barrel shape versus a straight roller, which is just straight all the way across. And what this does is it allows you to get curves, gentle curves, on the edges of your blade. And for the jack plane, if you're taking a lot of material off, it's actually helpful to have a slight camber on it because you're not going to be ripping out from sharp corners. So we'll get to that later because normally you're not going to sharpen that at a camber until you've got your primary bezel angle set, right? So now what we do is we will roll it up and down, just like that on your medium. So I'm going to wet my 400, and then of course I will work my way up. 4, 6. Now, as mentioned in a previous video, my 1000 is mislabeled, my 1200 is mislabeled. It's actually 1200 is a coarser grit compared to the 1000. So I'm going to go 4, 6, and then to this one, then this one. But so how I work with it versus really anything else, because they don't give you much other guidances. I'm just going to put my fingers down here on the corner so I get a good even amount of pressure, thumbs on the back, and I just roll. And you just go like that. And the weight of the actual blade, the weight of the jig, sits on the roller is really nice, and it just does its own thing. Now these are really short. If I was using, say, the Scary Sharp method, if you know about that one where it's sheets of sandpaper stuck down to, say, like glass or melamine or a really flat board, I'd have a lot more distance that I can actually run it back and forth. Using these diamond plates, the issue is that if you fall off the end here, it goes clunk, and it changes the angle that you're actually grinding on. So if I go too far back, it falls off, and it's now sitting on the tile. It's going to change the angle of the grind. And of course, if I go too far forward, then, well, yeah, it falls off. And once again, if I'm scraping on here, you're going to be changing the angle and potentially ruining what you've just done. So with this is just a bit of practice and care in terms of motion of how far I can roll back and forwards. Just like that. I do want to give it a little bit of an angle because you'll see my blade is slightly wider than the actual width here, so I do want to cover off on all of the corners. Oh, see, there you go. And sometimes, just for ease, I will also just flip it around this way and work it like that. So, and then this just takes time. Just takes time. So just after a couple of those movements there, you can see the original blade is not 25 degrees. Let me see if I can clean that up so you can actually see that shiny edge. The 25 degrees is actually right on the edge of where they've cut this secondary angle. So this original angle was probably closer to 25 degrees, whereas now they've actually gone higher angle compared to 25 degrees on that secondary short edge. So this is probably going to take a while before I can grind 25 degrees all the way down to the edge of this iron. So once I hit that, once I reach that, then I'll start refining it and moving up the grades, and then of course taking off the burr at the end. So I've had really good results with this. I've had pretty decent results. With this particular chisel, which of course I'm not using that, you know, I've already dinged this up, but I flattened this completely because on commercially bought and manufactured chisels, if the reflection will show you, is that there's a dip in the middle. The dip in the middle is because they're using a grinding wheel which has a circular dip in it when they sharpen it. So putting this in the jig, you know, it took me maybe half an hour to an hour to do this. I didn't do too much on the back because it was pretty straight, and took out that dip, and it made this really sharp by comparison to what it came from the shops a long time ago. So the jig system does work. It is big, it is bulky, it feels good in the hand. The only thing that I would say that I would like an improvement on this jig is actually probably grip, right? Grip, because if you've got big hands, I don't think I've got huge hands. Right? I don't think I've got massive hands. You know, we're talking, what, 18 from tip to heel, you know, what, that's about 8 centimeters or something like that. If we're talking inches for those who work in that space, what, 7.5 inch by, what's that, 3.5, thereabouts. You know, my hands aren't massive, they're not gorilla hands, but it feels really cramped. It does feel really cramped if you're holding it tightly together like this for long periods of time. So if there was just extra handles or something that could give you a bit more support when you're actually moving this, because it is a repetitive motion, you can give yourself RSI, and you want your hands to be comfortable. You don't want to be tightened up and with a lot of tension when you do this. So that is how the jig works. It's pretty straightforward. It's a lovely, well-designed, well-pieced together, you know, brass, metal, got lots of heft, good curves on it. The finish is really nice. Yeah, I'm so happy that I actually picked this up at half price. So some good luck from me cruising around on the marketplace to find it. But I'm going to end that there, because obviously the next bit for me working on this and grinding this down is going to be super boring. So I'll come back just to show what it looks like at the end, and yeah, maybe have the follow-up video from that is after I put it into the actual jack plane itself and give it some test cuts on some timber. So hopefully we'll see you after the split when I've actually done a whole bunch of sharpening. All right, so that was probably about an hour and a half, maybe pushing close to 2 hours of sharpening through the various stages here, and this is the end result. Now you can see I've got a good, you know, sort of nearly a centimeter in size now of that angle. Yeah, it's pushing pretty much almost a centimeter now. If that will, I'm just going to try and rock it so you can see maybe the angle there. That is about as shiny as that's going to get with sort of the approximate 1200 grit that I've got on these plates. You'll notice that the angle on this is also not straight to the iron, and after I started sharpening, what I realized is this actual iron is slightly tapered, so me putting it flat against the straight edge is actually angling the center of the iron. Now that's not a huge deal because the edge is still going to be, it's pretty straight, it's pretty square, but the angle is preserved regardless of that. What I did find really interesting is that after I did the back, there's a bit of discoloration that you can see here, and it looks like there's also a change in the grain of the metal underneath. And to me, what that means is whoever used this previously ground it on like a grinding wheel, and they heated it up quite a bit. They didn't manage to heat control very well, and it has actually probably tempered the iron in some way. There's a very distinct line and a color change in the alloy. Now, technically, if you anneal metal correctly, it actually makes it harder so you can get a sharper edge, but it makes it more brittle. If they'd actually dipped it in oil or whatever and tempered it, then obviously it changes the actual properties of the steel again. Now, I'm not doing any of that, so I don't really know how hard or brittle this is. There is a little nick on that side as well there, and a slight nick on that side too. But right now, it's catching on my fingers and it's very sharp. I haven't actually put it on the strop yet. So now this compound didn't come with that compound came with the set. So I'm just going to put a little bit of fresh compound on there. I'm just keeping it in there so it doesn't get lost. And now we're going to undo that, loosen it. I don't want to fly off. We'll take it this way so we don't damage the edge. We'll just dry that off a touch, and we're going to run it this way just to make sure that the burr is facing one side first, and then we can take the burr off, and that should give us a really nice sharp edge. Well, you can see it's left a line there because I've taken the burr off now, and that is sharp. Now here's just some scrap standard sort of printer paper. I don't know, will this cut? Oh yeah, that cuts. That is a good cut. A little bit of a tear, but like, that is sharp. That is crazy sharp. So about 2 hours of work, grinding about 1 centimeter completely back to a new angle. About 2 hours of work there, flattening the back of that and putting that through to about 1200, and a polished compound will get you sharp enough to be cutting printer paper with no worries whatsoever. So let's get this reassembled. So I'm just going to get it probably about you know, a mil or so off, 1.5 mils maybe. We'll tighten this up. I'm going to do the light check again. Oh, that's really bright. I'm going to try on the sunlight. Yeah, once again, it's just this side that's got a little bit of a wobble on it. So, I mean, that might come out over time, but that's the side that's got the nick as well. All right, so that's ready to go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to end this here, just in terms of commentary with this. You know, 2 hours of working with this jig, pretty effortless. Like, it's really repetitive. I didn't have music or anything on. I probably could have. I haven't really figured out how to use the camber very well at all, so there's not really much of a camber, but that's something that over time, hopefully I'll get a bit of experience and I'll be able to put that on. But I like it. I think this is a really well-made product. So, you know, if you can get your hands on one of these, and you can get it cheap as well, and it's in good condition, then definitely well worth it. Because a lot of the reviews that I've read around similar kinds of honing jigs that come from, you know, AliExpress and eBay and stuff like that, or even Amazon, the cheaper ones, they don't do a very good job because they don't hold the iron very well. And for the ones that are designed with chisels, this mating surface, they have like angle cuts in them. Often they don't hold it straight, they don't hold it consistently, they don't hold pressure very well, or the angles have like inconsistent thicknesses of paint, and so on and so forth. With this particular one, when I ran it and I tried it, look, it works beautifully. So I think definitely an investment if you're somebody who is going to be intending to do a lot of sharpening, and you want a consistent tool that you can work with very, very effortlessly every time. So there you go. That's the Veritas Mark II honing guide system there. Yeah, I would say, you know, links below, but I don't have any links and I have no affiliation to any of these people. So yeah, you'll just have to go and find them yourselves. If you can get it on the marketplace, secondhand, eBay, somewhere, and you can get it cheap, then definitely well worth it. All right, I'm going to clean up here now. I'm going to rinse this all off. There's a lot of, as you can see, iron and steel everywhere. And then we'll come back in another video, in another part, and we'll give this sharpened iron with the jack plane a go at cleaning up maybe one of these bits of pallet timber that I've got below. So we'll catch you next time.